on, folks, let me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc, where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
Really, it's just understanding that we're all on this journey. We're all learning. Every day, you want to improve 1%. And that's really where true leadership is recognizing your humanity, recognizing that you will fail. You will need to dust yourself off and get back up. Continue to lead, continue to show up, continue to be positive, and encourage people. And really do it from the heart versus doing it from some fake kind of leadership.
Welcome back to the Daily Parks and Rec Show from the 2025 GRPA Conference. In this episode, we sit down with Justin Cutler, Commissioner of Atlanta Parks and Recreation, to talk leadership, emotional intelligence, and what it really means to show up for your team. From team programs to aquatics, maintenance, and mindfulness in leadership, this conversation is packed with insight you won't want to miss. Let's dive in.
All right, we are live again. This is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Friend of mine from Atlanta, Georgia, Justin Cutler. And actually, we're both fellow Bitcoiners. We try to meet every Sunday and just talk more about how we kind of can figure this thing out and what it is. But why don't you tell us a little bit about how Atlanta's doing?
Yeah, well, I am with Atlanta Parks and Recreation, and we have a team here of about 10 people who have joined the conference. And so we're having a great time here in Jekyll Island, learning a ton, a lot of great presentations. Our Atlanta Teen Leader Academy gave a great presentation on what they're doing every day to help serve our young people. They do a phenomenal job with the ages 13 to 24, making sure that our young people have safe places and spaces to go, provide job training, provide engaging activities, and just really open up the world for all the teens in Atlanta. So they do a great job. And then we have our park maintenance team who's here learning about all the greatest maintenance technology and what they can do to be the best maintenance team. And then we have our aquatics team here, and they're learning about great aquatic opportunities to bring back to Atlanta. So a lot of great things happening.
Yeah. And I'd like to focus the show a little bit on leadership, because I know that's something you've focused in and that's starting to really share a lot of your leadership skills and stuff. But what is your message to kind of people that are aspirationally want to step up in leadership roles?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we as leaders can do, and sometimes I don't do the best job of this, but is just keep our emotions in check, right? How do you show up? How are you showing up for your team? How are you managing emotional intelligence? And I think that's a constant struggle as a leader, because everybody has a bad day sometimes, right? But as a leader, you need to keep that in check. You take deep breaths, find a way to meditate or manage stress. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges when it comes to leadership, is just having a high level of emotional intelligence and being able to work through your bad days so you don't create another bad day for one of your colleagues.
Yeah. And I know me and you were kind of both fans of Michael Singer. I actually met him earlier this week and Sunday. I can't believe I got to meet the guy in person. Yeah. What was the name of that great book he wrote?
Life Untethered.
Yes. Life Untethered.
Life. And I think it speaks a lot of just like, how do you sit in the seat of consciousness versus sit in the seat of emotion and reactions? And I think as a leader, it's really easy to get caught up in the emotions of decision making, emotions of decisions, and how things are made or things kind of happen to you. But I think Michael Singer talks about is how do you embrace that seat of consciousness? How do you use your frontal cortex? How do you, take a moment, take a breath, respond to something respond to something versus reacting to it. I think that's really critical.
Yeah. I think one of the powerful messages he has is you are not what happened to you.
Yeah, you're not what happened to it. I think also just you're not your emotions.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes that we kind of connect our emotions, or we connect that to who we are and our identity, and that's not true.
Yeah. And I love how he discussed how, emotions, things that happen to you are kind of like waves in an ocean. You don't have to hang on to them. You can just kind of let them pass. And if you just kind of wait long enough, those things will subside, as long as you don't focus your energy on it and claim it as your own. Next thing you know, you're wrapped up your identity in this one event or this emotion. You might say, I always get angry, or I'm a jealous person or something. And it's really not the case.
Yeah, and I think it's really liberating too, because if life is a level of ocean and level of wave, then that means that tomorrow you can be different. And I think there's a lot of power and a lot of liberation in that. And I think it's when we hold on to those emotions or those experiences that we don't experience that liberation, that opportunity to be different or to be fresh.
Yeah. And then life often has these storms. They're just so normal in life. So what are your kind of secrets to finding the calm in the storm, or being the calm in the storm?
Yeah. I think for me, it's really slowing down, really trying to listen when somebody brings a problem or brings an opportunity, just taking a moment, taking it in, asking questions, trying not to react or go with my first reaction, but really understanding what is behind the request. I think also I find meditating helpful, just taking breaths. That's been really helpful for me. I know some people use prayer. I think that's helpful. Recognize that there's a higher power at work, and surrendering to that experience too can be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he also says that we're all addicts to our emotions and our thoughts,
Yeah.
and we have to break that addiction.
Yeah, and that's hard, right?
Yeah.
Because they're what you experience on a daily basis is your emotions, your reactions, and it's easy to get just caught in that way versus finding kind of presence.
Yeah. That was actually going to be my next one is staying present. Just seems, and it's so easily said, you got to stay present, stay in the present moment and stuff. But man, after that, everything's hard. You say it and you're like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. How are you able to not, fear the future or worry about the past and just stay in this present moment so that you can be in the conversation that you might be having with somebody?
On a good day when I'm not failing at that.
Yeah. like the rest of us.
I think, man. But anyway, like nobody's claiming to be perfect here. I think that's the biggest thing is you have to realize that nobody's claiming to be perfect. We're all learning. And, I think it's really easy with social media to get caught up in, well, that person has this or this person has that. And I don't have that. Why? And I think it's being grateful for what we do have, I think is really helpful for me and helped me to stay centered too, is just being grateful for what I do have, not focusing on other people and what they have or what they don't have. And then I think also just, again, going back to that breath work and that meditations.
Yeah. And so let's say you have a leader in front of you that you want to be like them. You see that maybe they're somewhat of a master of being present and stuff. And how do you not get wrapped up into constantly comparing yourself and maybe even idolizing them? How are you find your own voice and be your own leader?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that it's easy to get wrapped up into that comparison game, right? Because you may be a leader presently in your position, or you may not see yourself as a leader. But I encourage everybody to see themselves first and foremost as a leader. Whether you're leading a team, whether you're leading a group of people, whether you're leading a group of young people, you are a leader in your own right. And so it's understanding and embracing that idea that you are a leader, and therefore as a leader, you need to show up in a way that is worthy of following. Right. And so I think that then is sometimes where I get tripped up is like, well, what is worthy of following? Right. Do I have to be perfect? Do I have to hit every mark? And I think that's where the temptation of perfection then leads us down to a dark path of not being perfect. So therefore you don't try to lead. And I think really it's just understanding that we're all on this journey. We're all learning every day. You want to improve 1%. And that's really where true leadership is recognizing your humanity, recognizing that you will fail. You will need to dust yourself off and get back up. And that is true leadership, is being able to get up over and over and over again and continue to lead, continue to show up, continue to be positive and encourage people and really do it from the heart versus doing it from some fake kind of leadership.
Yeah. Now let's maybe give people some resources. Are there any podcasts or similar to Michael Singer? Is there anyone else that you've kind of looked at as kind of resources for yourself to kind of go down this leadership journey?
Yeah, for me, Michael Singer is a good one. He has a podcast out there. If you look up Michael A. Singer. Also, the No Bullshit Leader podcast. That's been really helpful. A gentleman from Australia. He has some really good tips and tricks, and he has a lot of free online resources. Also, HBR, Harvard Business Review. They have some good online essays that you can just download. LeaderGov, they've been a great resource. We use LeaderGov at the City of Atlanta. They come in and they do seminars for all of our different levels of staff. We have Frontline Supervisor Academy. We also use their Teamwork Summit information. That's been really helpful. So LeaderGov is a great resource. Bill and Tim do a phenomenal job with their whole team. So they can help build out a leadership training program within your organization if that's something that you want to see more of. And they can help you feel empowered to do that as well. So I think that's a really critical thing, is they just don't come in and do it for you. They will do it with you so you can position your team as the leaders and as the people that are delivering the service.
Now, what are some of the biggest hangups in Parks and Rec? especially with regards to leadership that you see, and that maybe you can give some short putts on that. Look, if you can kind of shore this one up, this will help maybe increase your ability by 5 or 10% just by these easy tricks.
Yeah, I think we were just talking with my colleagues, Nick and Tanisha. We were talking about how oftentimes leadership is lonely.
Mm.
And I think one of the biggest traps that leaders can fall into is when you are with a group of colleagues or with a group of teammates, and who you got to watch who you complain to. So it can be really tempting to get into that group of you're with your team members and you start complaining about this, that, or the other thing. And I think it's our job as leaders to take the high road, if you will, and just it's not that everything's positive, but sometimes you just don't need to complain, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's why leadership is lonely. So if you're finding a person that you have a good relationship with, that you can bounce ideas off with, that you can build that collegial encouragement, right? Whether it's a leadership support group, whether it's a colleague or a mentor, but avoid the temptation of complaining down and complaining across. Work with your team and work with your mentors and your support system. And those are the individuals that if you need to vent, go vent to them, and but don't vent down to your team, because that's pretty dangerous. It's trust, it's your perspective, your standing as a leader, because then your teammates are going to wonder, well, are they talking about me to this other person? So
yeah. And one thing you might not like about Michael Singer is he does not really listen well to your problems. He's like, I don't listen to my problems. Why would I listen to your problems? So maybe a lot of times we think that our problems make us unique, but really what I find the truth is that we all have problems and issues, and complaining really doesn't help it out. So what's another way that we can deal with some of these, I guess, doubts and fears and stuff that come up in our mind? How do we handle those?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. I would also push back on Michael Singer in the sense of, like, I think you do need people to talk to, right? I think talking things out can be really helpful. I think journaling can be helpful too, right? My wife, she does a great job of reminding me, what advice would you give to a friend facing the same challenge?
That's
So
a
you
good
may
one.
not be able to talk to somebody, but what advice would you give to you, that you would give to a friend facing a similar challenge that you're facing yourself? And so, I always have her voice ringing in the back of my head, and she's really helpful just to stay centered. But I think that's a good starting point, right?
Yeah, really. And that's such great advice to just say, oftentimes if we would just take our own advice, we have the answers inside of us.
We know what we're doing.
We're just so wrapped up in the moment.
Yeah.
If we can find a way to step out and self-counsel, that many times the wisdom's there. You just got to get out of this moment that you're in.
Yeah, I think it's also so tempting as a leader to think you have to have it perfect. Like, one of the things that I appreciate about your session, about this video and content creation, is just start, right?
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes people put up barriers. Well, I will start when I have a microphone. I will start when I have this. I will be a leader when I have that. I will be a leader when I achieve this. I'm constantly reminded, by doing sessions like this, that no, it's important that you just start.
Yeah.
And that you just be a leader, and that every day is new and every day is going to be different. So if you feel like you failed one day, get up the next day, do it over again, and just build that habit.
Yeah, because there really is there's no replacement for experience. And sometimes you're looking to get something that only experience will provide before getting that experience. And that, I don't care how experienced you are, maybe you can speak to this, but that you're always learning, and that there's always room for improvement. And so if you never start, and you never start that journey, then you're always cut off from the wisdom only embedded in experience. So maybe what are some of the things you've kind of picked up along the way?
Yeah, I think one thing that I did early on in my career was just volunteer for everything. I would sit in rooms and, a supervisor would say, hey, we need somebody to do X. Well, nobody wanted to do X, so nobody raised their hand. I always raised my hand and I did X. And I gained tremendous experience just raising my hand and saying, hey, I'll do that. And now I know I had the privilege of time because I didn't have kids at the time. I was in my 20s, and I didn't have other commitments. So other people may have had commitments and didn't allow them to do that. They may have been later in their career. But when you're early in your career, raise your hand for everything, because you'll never have time to gain that back. There'll be a moment, if you don't have kids, or you don't have a partner, or you don't have certain encumbrances, to be able to say yes to as many things as you can. So getting involved in GRPA or your other RPAs within your state, I think, is really critical, and say yes to as many things as you can. Obviously, don't burn yourself out. Make sure you have good boundaries. But the more you say yes, the more you'll be blessed, the more opportunity you'll have, because you'll be exposed to people that you didn't even know you'd be exposed to. For example, I was with the city of Gresham, and I said yes to a project. Well, I got to meet all the department heads. I got to learn all about system charges. I got to learn all about impact fees and the impacts on our community at the city of Gresham at the time. And I became an expert. I wouldn't have gotten that if I didn't raise my hand. And I think that's what we just need to raise our hands and be willing to take that risk.
Now, are there any qualities in a good leader that maybe inspired you, or what would you say defines a really good leader?
Yeah, I think for me, being a good leader means, having that kind of emotional balance to, when a team member comes to you and they may be experiencing some anxiety or some fear about something, that you don't fall into that trap, that you're able to listen at a distance. In a sense, you're able to hear what they're saying, you're able to build that empathy with that individual, but then you're able to invite them into solving their own problem. People know what they need to do. They may need somebody to vent to. And as a leader, you can be that person. You can be that person that helps them be the hero of their own story. And so I think it's hearing them, understanding what they're trying to ask, but then also repeating it back to them and helping them find their own solution. I think that's really critical about it. I'd also encourage people to hang out where leaders are, right? If there's a group of people, oftentimes state associations like Parks and Rec agencies, if you're a new leader, hang out with other leaders. I think the best advice that I would give to some is, if you want to be a leader of Parks and Recreation agencies, go hang out with other directors. In the state of Oregon, there was a directors forum and there was a programming forum, and I spent equal amount of time in both. I knew I wanted to be a director, so I would go hang out with the other directors, people who were leading and people who were making those decisions. So when I had that opportunity to be in that place, I already had that network, and I understood the context with which I'd be working in. And so I made a real conscious effort that I knew I wanted to be a director of Parks and Rec, so I would hang out with other directors and kind of act as if in that moment they were like, "Who's this kid doing in our program? Why, he's not even a director. Why is he here?" But again, raise your hand, get involved, and that led to other things.
Fantastic. Okay, last question. If you were sitting in front of a group of college kids that are undecided, don't know what they want to do with their career, what would be your testament to the industry?
Yeah, I think Parks and Recreation was something that I went to college for. Not a lot of people that say that, but they go to Parks and Recreation. They go to university to study Parks and Recreation. And I knew pretty early on that I wanted to do church ministries or do church camps. Went to Washington State University, was the last person to graduate Parks and Recreation before they axed the program. But it's been phenomenal. I think a lot of people think about working in nonprofits, but it's great working in local government. It's somewhat like a nonprofit. The pay and the compensation tends to be better than nonprofits. The pension system, the healthcare tends to be better. But at the end of the day, it's about being able to give back. And I think that's what's really important. And my mom was a teacher, and she instilled in me just a pride about giving back and helping others. And so Parks and Recreation, just a phenomenal way to give back and support our community and make it a better place, both for yourself, but also for other families. And you get paid in smiles at the end of the day too, which is a lot of fun to see kids having fun at programs, build beautiful, amazing spaces, work outside in nature, and just be on a great team.
Fantastic. Well, Justin, thank you so much for sharing all that wisdom, and thank you for your service here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And appreciate you coming on the show today.
Well, thank you, Craig, for what you're doing. And thanks to Parks and Recreation Media Services for what you're doing to help us spread the word. And thanks for having the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you. Take care.
Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product? Growing your presence in public spaces? Targeting cities, counties, or departments? DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.